This is it, Fatty, episode 28 of the Leadville podcast, the season-ending show for our fourth season.
Right, Hottie, but it is worth mentioning that while this show's season is behind us, the reasons for our listeners to check out floydsofleadville.com are still very much in front of us.
Yeah, for one thing, most of us are actually in that relax and recovery part of the year, at least finally, now's when you start building yourself back up after a hard year of training and racing, putting yourself in position to start next season strong and recovered. And that's Floyd's Leadville's strong suit out of all the stuff they do. It is that relax and recovery deal. CBD gels or tinctures to help you get a good night's rest, and balms and creams to work into those legs you've been abusing for the past half year.
So much abuse. Rest now for a great start to 2022. That's what I say. That brings us to the second point I think we should make about the end of this show season. The discount for our listeners goes on. Stock up for yourself now, or maybe drop a hint to someone who's wondering what to get you for the holidays. The discount never ends, so head over to floydsofleadville.com and use the code FATTY at checkout for a 15% discount.
And thanks, Floyds of Leadville, for being the title sponsor of this show.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Floyds of Leadville. It is season 4, episode 28 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest and hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I am Michael Hottie to most.
And I am Fatty, and this is it for season 4, though I am happy to say that while Hottie and I are taking a short break from this show to work on a couple of other projects, we will be back in just a couple of months for season 5 of the Leadville podcast, so do not delete us from your podcast feed, at least not yet.
Yeah, for one thing, there's a very good chance that you and I will drop in from time to time with between-season shows and maybe the odd tip or reminder to get your registration submitted, or deep thoughts about course updates, or big announcements about how the time gap between wave starts has been adjusted by 2.3 seconds.
Or 2.1. I mean, we care about the details here. We're just like you, our listeners, and we're looking for any excuse we can to talk about racing. And I'm also going to say one more thing, buy our kit. You can find it over at leadville.fm/kit. We have got 2 colorways, the predominantly orange and black, big buckle style, and the super easy to see during a race, big audio wave, blue and magenta style.
And both designs come in men's and women's sizing, both in the very aero race day pattern and the more comfortable century fit.
Yeah, both designs also have the complementary designs for the DNA cargo bibs, which means you've got side pockets on your bibs where you can store a couple of gels or stow your trash or really anything that you need. I understand Hottie rides with a full-size shotgun mic in one of his side pockets and the Zoom H5 recorder in his other.
Hey, you never know when you might want to get some good audio, so I love having those pockets, and I'll stuff them full of recording gear when and if I need to. Besides the jerseys and bibs, we've also got matching arm warmers and socks, and even some pretty amazing looking t-shirts for each design. And I understand that anything you see, or any time that is, you see someone wearing either of these kits at next year's Leadville 100, you will give them a complimentary 5-minute poll at the speed of their choosing.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I will make that. I will make that commitment as long as they don't mind me holding them back with a single speed pace. So yeah, for sure. Please, one ask here at the end of the season, support this show and DNA by going to leadville.fm/kit. Buy whatever you like. Pre-order is right now and goes through the end of November. So maybe another good gift idea for, if someone asks what you want.
Just tell them to go to leadville.fm/kit. It's a great way to support this show, and it's an incredible kit your crew will easily be able to recognize next year at the aid stations.
Yeah, one more time. leadville.fm/kit.
This has been a season of stories, and Fanny and I have wanted to let our storytellers tell their stories without us necessarily getting in the way.
Yeah, this episode, though, it is our turn to give you all the advice that we've been holding back. Just kidding, sort of. Really, this is just our list of 5 ideas to consider as you and we move on from the finish line in 2021 and start thinking about the starting line of 2022.
All right, folks, pen and paper. Let's get through a great list for your off season of what you can do as you prepare for the 2022 starting line. I'm going to kick things off here with something I actually learned from Rebecca. I've learned a lot from Rebecca Rush. Half of my Leadville reason is because of Rebecca. And she actually, during her RPI run-up, did a whole podcast, did a whole show on your why. And knowing your why for doing whatever it is you're doing. Yeah, the Leadville 100 is the thing that we're talking about here. But you should always look for a why, especially in competitive adventures that you might be planning out. I actually blew this whole thing once, the why. Having a why as I went into a race. And it was a 2017 Leadville Trail 100. I went into that race with no reason to be there, no why. And the race essentially spit me out. Said, get out of here. You don't belong in this thing if you don't have a why. You need to identify a why. And a why could be a lot of things. I mean, that's up for you to figure out what's my why for being here. It could be, a goal, a time goal. Could be a why. You want to improve. You want to help somebody else. Could be a why. Charity. Maybe you want to race for a charity, raise funds for somebody. You're pacing another.
You want to finish a big event?
Yeah. You want to do this for the first time is a great why. So look for a why before you sign up for any race, but for sure the Leadville 100, because trust me, folks, the thing will just spit you out if you're not standing at that start line with a reason for being there. And then kind of something dovetails off the why is find inspiration. So once you have your why, I like having inspiration, something I can lean on, something I can turn to that reinvigorates my motivation for being in a race. So yeah, this is related to your why. Your why might be your inspiration, but you might look for some. For me, it was the Race Across the Sky movies. I still turn to those things for inspiration, especially for Leadville. I flick those things on, and that cinematography and those views and those stories, or listening to Fatty in those movies, always motivates me about Leadville and about being there and about why I love the race so much. So look for a why, have a why going in, and then find some inspiration.
Yeah. And that reason you race, the reason you train can hold you through a tough part in the race, and it can hold you through a low spot in your training, right? Because your training and your racing is almost like a sine wave, right? You're going to have high points, you're going to have low points, and when things are not going well, being able to lean back on here is why I am doing this is the difference between keeping going and giving up. I remember in 2017 that my head just about spun around, Hottie, when I was coming up to the Carter Summit and I saw you standing there, that you'd finished your race and you handed me a bottle. I was like, what is going on? Personally, I guess my why is always there. I am personally just an intensely competitive person. And my why is I want to see if I can beat myself in this. But different people have different reasons, different motivations. Identifying it is a huge part of what is going to keep you going and is going to get you across, it's going to get you up the power line. It's going to get you up Columbine when it would be at the moment preferable to not. So that's number one. And number one for a good reason. You got to have a great motivation and hold on to it throughout the race. Start thinking about what that's going to be in 2022 as you start preparing for entering and training for an incredibly hard day in Colorado. Let's go on to number 2. Don't burn out. At this point in the year, I come across a lot of racers who are done meaning mentally done with their riding and their racing. They have just checked out and they are so glad to just be getting off the bike. I am kind of proud of the fact that in my 25 years or whatever it is of cycling, I've actually never gotten tired of it, Hottie. I've never burned out. And I think that has partially something to do with my personality. I don't get tired of stuff in general. Part of that has to do with the fact that no matter what, I have fun when I ride. Not everyone is necessarily that lucky. I know people do get sick of riding. And so I would say maybe take, I guess, one little lesson that I have learned, and that is do some fun rides. Enjoy the fitness that you've got. If you have earned some fitness during this year, leverage that fitness, your strength, your endurance, with some big rides where there is no objective other than just to enjoy yourself and get out there and enjoy the air, enjoy the altitude. If you've got altitude, enjoy a long climb that you are not timing yourself on, and you maybe aren't even wearing a heart rate monitor, or you've left all of the electronics at home. Just enjoy it. So avoid burnout by remembering why you love riding.
Or do no rides. There's nothing wrong with putting the bike aside for a month and saying, I'm going to take a little time away from this thing and do something else, run, play with your kids, fix up the yard,
hike,
shovel snow, go cross-country skiing. I mean, I watch the Fatty. One of the tough things, or one of the great things about Southern California, is one of its hard things too, and that is the weather here is always conducive to riding. And I watch friends and colleagues just ride straight through the year. They rarely let off the gas. I think they walk around with this feeling like, if I don't keep riding, I'm going to lose my fitness. I'm going to not be the rider that I always like to be. I'm not going to be able to get up that climb like I always like to. And yeah, that's all true. If you take time away from the bike, some fitness is going to go away. The good news is you get it back, and it comes back pretty easily, especially the more experienced you are. So don't be afraid to just put the bike aside and let it collect dust for a few weeks. You're going to be fine. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to run away. That thing will still be there. The tires will go a little flat, but it's fine.
You can pump those tires back up. And as a possible alternative, try some different kinds of riding. This is, of course, a mountain biking race, and it's what we care about. But if you have been spending all of your time on your hardtail or your full suspension bike, get out a fat bike. If you've got a fat bike and you've got a good place to go riding, get out the road bike, get out a fixie, get out a gravel bike. Go and try different kinds of riding. And see how doing something different leverages what you've already got and makes you have just can give you a new perspective on pedaling. It's great.
Yeah, and if you want to see an example of how this overdoing it thing can really sneak up on you, look at the faces of some of these gravel pros now that are out there. Pete Stetna, friend of the show, Payson McKelvin, Sarah Sturm. Some of these people who are kind of riding for a living. I mean, they've seen their calendars get consolidated into this current fall season that we're talking in right now. And man, they've really had to knock down a lot of races all at once. I think what we're going to see those folks do is try and take some time off or try to do some fun stuff. I know I've seen Sarah Sturm already out there doing fun things as opposed to racing, because the racing and the training and all that goes with it is taxing, and you need to give yourself a little mental and a little physical break so you can hit that reset button and then come back really strong when it's time to start ramping up for those next big events in 2022. Okay, and speaking of that, let's get to point number 3. This is a favorite of Hottie's. I preach this quite a bit. Not all cyclists agree with this or believe in this, but I'm going to say it again here. Number 3, get stronger. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can do it by just what we were talking about. Take it easy. Let yourself recover a little bit, but get stronger. So when 2022 or whatever comes around for you next, you're ready really to go at it hard. What do I mean by get stronger? What are the ways that that I like to get stronger, or I think other people should at least try and get stronger, and that is go pick up some heavy stuff. Take the time away from racing to go and pick up heavy stuff. For me, that means walking down to my gym down here, and I do the traditional weightlifting scene. Not everyone's into that. Not everyone belongs to a gym. Not everyone wants to go into a gym right now, considering the health situation we've been in. But try and find a way to pick up heavy stuff. Dave Wiens used to say about building strength it was like he was building his shield. Like he was building this physical shield so his body could take, more of the punishment that he was sure to give it. Strength is not going to equal speed. Lifting weights, you shouldn't be looking for an increase in watts. That's not how it works. It simply just means your body's going to be able to put up with more, whether it be the repetitive motion of cycling, whether it be a fall, just a lot of stuff, whether just picking up your kids, right? I mean, you're just going to be a better, stronger human being if you go and pick up some heavy stuff. And again, it doesn't have to be the gym. I'm going to revert back to my favorite inspiration, Rebecca Rush. The way she does it, she goes out for a hike, she finds heavy stuff along the way. It might be rocks, it might be a tire, and she picks that stuff up and pushes it around and just finds a way to kind of tax those muscles in a different way and go ahead and put on a little mass or just remind some of those fast twitch fibers that, yeah, I'm here. I want to make you a little stronger while we put the bike kind of secondary. So tip number 3, get stronger.
Yeah, this is one where I really fail, Hottie. Lisa, the hammer, she follows a yoga routine as well as some weightlifting. And she is, if you look pound for pound, watt for watt, she is way more the athlete than I am, way stronger. And of course is able to do things across the entire spectrum where I am a one-trick pony. And I am looking at this, I'm thinking about single speed for 2022, and having a strong core really does make a big difference on when you are doing that kind of riding. You are definitely using your upper body a lot more than just your legs when you are single speeding. So a little bit of a revelation there for me as well. But yeah, it is something that I am going to do. And I think it actually goes back to our tips 1, or actually to tip number 2 as well. Taking a break. This off season, it's a good time to do something a little bit different as you punch the reset button. Getting stronger is, from what I understand, a good way to help with punching that reset button and to try something different. Get your head back in a good space so that you don't burn out midway through next spring. Now, I want to talk for a second about one of our sponsors, and that's Envy. They are close to home, at least for me, and every rider in my area is very familiar with Envy employees because they are a huge part of the local races and group rides, the entire local scene. If you ride, you've almost certainly run into folks in the Envy kit. In fact, pretty much every ride. The fact is they're deeply involved, not just in making great wheels and bars and stems and posts and so forth. They are very involved in the cycling community. Hottie, Neil Shirley actually better than I do, back from well before he ever joined Envy.
Yeah, super great guy. The only male, I believe, who has finished on both the mountain bike and pro national on the podium for both pro mountain bike and pro road levels. So terrific guy. He was a journalist at one time, was the head guy at Road Bike Action. He loves riding, has shared that passion with countless of people, including me. And that can be said of Envy in general. So it's no wonder he fit in there. At least before the pandemic, if you went into the Envy building around lunchtime, you would find nobody there because everyone was out on a lunch ride. Envy even provides a nice locker room for employees to clean up after the lunchtime company ride.
Yeah, their passion really shows in products too. We could not be happier to have Envy with the Leadville podcast, and obviously love riding on Envy wheels. Anyone who takes a look at my bike rack in my garage will find that extremely obvious. You can check out the leader in the bike wheel and components industry at ENVE, that's envy.com.
All right, let's get to tip number 4, and that's, speaking of equipment, start preparing your bike and yourself. Our 4th tip for the off-season, it's a biggie. start planning for your 2022 season. Obviously, there's a little bit of a supply chain issue, so you could start planning anytime now. It may seem like Leadville 100 is a long way down the road, but you'll be surprised how quickly we'll be back at 6th and Harrison, and you'll want some new gear.
Yep. You're going to want some new gear, and you might want to have yourself maybe a little bit more prepared as well. Training plans or having a coach can, starting now, make a big difference in how ready you are. So let's talk a little bit about preparing yourself and your bike. If you go back a few episodes in this show, my daughter Melissa used to be a good solid 10.5-hour Leadville finisher. She is now 3 hours faster than that. Consider that delta. That is, it's extraordinary. I would say, a lot of that obviously goes to her dedication and her intensity, her ability is, don't discount that. But a lot of it also has to do with the fact that she very strictly and consistently adheres to the plan that her coach set for her. And she has seen just remarkable improvements because of that. Now, not everyone can afford or perhaps has the time for a professional coach and the time and money that costs, but most anyone can afford to get a good plan. If you're going to use Trainer Road, for example, that is something that I've used many years, and that has done me a lot of good. Fast Cat Coaching has pre-prepared plans for you to get yourself trained, and for like a couple $100, you can get a plan that will take you all the way from now to Leadville and will have you really well trained. You can spend more money to get more personal coaching, but start with that plan and stick to it, and you will be amazed at the gains you can make.
Mm-hmm. I remember Melissa said specifically that she focused more on sweet spot training. That's what her coach had her do, and that made a nice leap for her. But I think overall what we're talking about is there's an athlete who suddenly got super focused about what she was doing. She had a specific training plan, and she was able to not only execute that plan, but execute on race day. Another person we'd love to give a plug here for, he's been on the show, Brian McCullough. So if you're looking for a coach, Brian is a great guy to look up. In fact, Brian's focus has become more so, he comes from a road background, but he's out with mountain bikers now all the time. He went, I think, all the way out to Maryland for endurance nationals to follow his athletes out there. So he is really keyed in now, and you can go back and listen to our episode we had with Brian. It's from last season, and hear him talk about training for Leadville. Super good guy, so I would definitely recommend him. On Trainer Road, Fatty, again, I'm a big fan. If you don't want to coach, you're looking for kind of a more self-starter, something you can do yourself, Trainer Road is an excellent idea. And in fact, they've kind of redone things over at Trainer Road. They've got now what they call adaptive training over there now. So it really takes into consideration more than just what intervals you want to do and what you're getting ready for, but it also looks at how are you responding to these intervals? What kind of mood are you in that day? How are you feeling that day? And it makes adaptations based on those inputs as well. So they've really upped their game at Trainer Road. So that's a terrific way. If you don't want to go the coach route, you want to just do things on your own, Trainer Road is something definitely I would suggest.
Yeah. Of course, we had Jonathan Lee, who is with Trainer Road on this show. I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 seasons, but I think he has been on more than practically anyone else, mostly because you and I respect him so much, and the very thoughtful, methodical process that he brings, and it has really informed the changes in Trainer Road, where now with the adaptive training, how you did in your last ride informs how your next workout is going to be. Super impressive stuff. Unpaid endorsement there. How about that, Hottie? Not often we give those out. So let's go ahead and talk about your bike plan. You mentioned supply chain, and I think that is something that is worth underscoring. Normally, getting your next bike or upgrading the bike you have, or just doing important maintenance, making sure that your drivetrain is up to snuff, that's all just fun. We all love nerding out on our bike gear, but with the likelihood of frame and component shortages extending all the way through next Leadville. And to be honest, and beyond, I know that, two of our sponsors have talked with us about that it is, if you want to get yourself a set of NV wheels, you need to be thinking about buying them in 2020, late 2022. Shimano is backed up forever, right? It's so it is not necessarily easy to get some of the, big upgrades right now. So if you are going to get yourself a new frame, if you are going to get yourself a major upgrade, new wheels, you need to start thinking about that now. And you need to, maybe put in an order, do a little bit more investigation than you normally would. Or you may not be able to make those changes in time for the race.
I'm going to make a case here for, I love new bikes just as much as you do, Fatty, and new gear and all that stuff. But maybe not quite as much, because here's why. The bike I rode around Leadville in, I want to say it was 2015. 2015 is continuing to be entered into the race. Now, I'm not riding it. I sold it, but it still shows up. Rowett, a good friend of the show, still rides that bike. And in fact, entered the race on that bike this year. How is this possible? Well, because hardtails and cross-country bikes, while we've seen big leaps and bounds in trail bikes and enduro bikes, and even downhill bikes, there have been some major changes over the last 5 years in those bikes. Cross-country bikes have not made those kind of advances, shall we say. Yeah, through axles are now a thing, obviously on all cross-country bikes. The bike I just referenced doesn't have it. It has a quick release in the rear. I think he ran through axle up front, but so spacing, and there's been boost spacing now has come around to the cross-country bike. But the cross-country bikes from 3-4 years ago are still relevant, and you can still race them, and they're still going to be light enough. I mean, you put a set of NV wheels on any bike, even if it's 2, 3, 4 years old, you're going to be just fine on that bike. So I think the message here is, if you want a new bike, that's great, go pursue it. If you don't find it and you have something currently, that it's probably going to be fine. Or maybe on the used market, you can find something out there that still has life to it that you can build up and make it your race bike. So yeah, there is a supply shortage. It's kind of rough out there right now. It probably will be into 2022, but that doesn't mean there's not bikes out there, good race bikes that are definitely Leadville capable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess our real tip is think about what you're going to want to ride in 2022 and start planning now. It's not something that you do in April, right? And go talk to folks in your bike shop and let them know, because those are the guys who know about other people who are also perhaps selling their bikes and can give you a good lead on stuff. They are the ones who will be able to hold a chain for you when some do come in, right? So we've always been huge advocates of shopping local. It is going to be your local bike shop that you should be supporting anyway, who is going to be able to help you with all of that. So start planning and shop local.
And an important way you can both be faster on race day and make the chain you've got last as long as possible is by focusing on that chain. Let me recommend going back and listening to episode 4, season 4, that is, episode 10 of this show, and you'll find that spending some time now to learn to take care of your chain and doing some maintenance techniques can get you more free speed than you've ever thought possible.
Yeah, I agree on that, Hottie. That's something that you put into practice. I do not. That's we're finding that out in many things. Hottie is the guy to look to for best practices. I am the guy to look to for someone who rides a lot and is willing to beat himself up. So right now, for most of my life, I've been more of sort of a wipe the chain off with a greasy rag type. I do the other thing we've always recommended for any cyclist who cares about having a fast, reliable chain, and that is I use Shimano chains exclusively on my single speed, on my geared bike, and on all of Lisa's bikes. Shimano chains across the board. They are just acknowledged by experts and riders alike to be a cut above all other chains.
Yeah, chains are a hot commodity right now, so this is something listeners will want to think about currently. Plan ahead for when you need a chain, and be sure to get your chain at a reputable store, because there's been some counterfeits out there too. So go to your Shimano dealer, and they'll have the right stuff if they've got it. There are knockoffs out there in the online space again. So use your Shimano dealer if you're looking for a Shimano chain.
Yeah, you do not want a fake. If it looks like you're getting a great deal on a chain, you are almost certainly getting a bad deal on a chain. So good advice, Hottie. Take good care of the chain you've got, plan ahead for your next one, and be sure you're getting a genuine Shimano chain. Check out the best chains you can buy and the finest components available at bike.shimano.com.
While we're talking about 2022 race plans and bringing up sponsors, let's talk about nutrition plans for a moment.
Yeah, good call. There is a reason why episode after episode, season after season, Hottie and I talk about how fuel factors into this race. If you had a bad stomach last year when racing, or if you just haven't nailed down an endurance race day food plan yet, get started on it now. I'd say 75% of the stories you and I hear from folks who had a bad day on the course are feed fails. And the tragedy is almost every feed fail is avoidable.
I think we ran some mini segments on feed fails this season. The feed is able to help you as you start planning out your 2022 training and nutrition plan, from counseling on what is likely to work for you, to taking the right supplements, to setting up a subscription for your training and race nutrition.
Yeah, they have you covered across the board. So all you have to worry about is riding your bike for 100 miles. You seriously cannot start on this part of your race plan too soon.
Get the info and food you need for your training and race day from the feed by going to thefeed.com/Leadville to get a 15% discount on all your orders.
All right, let's get to tip number 5 for this episode. And I don't know if it should have gone at the first or if it was last. All 5 of these are important, but you cannot ride the Leadville 100 unless you have an entry into the Leadville 100.
Yeah, you just can't just jump in the race, you know. I mean, I suppose somebody has.
There have been poachers.
Oh, poachers, yeah.
But, yeah.
But we don't endorse that here. Please don't do that. Plus, you want an official time, right?
Yeah, can't get a buckle if you poach.
Right, so this is probably the most difficult of the 5, and we've saved it for last. For 2022, getting into the Leadville 100 the most traditional way, by hoping you get lucky with the lottery, is frankly going to work for very few of us.
Yeah, even fewer than usual, Hottie. You and I talk with a lot of racers as we kind of wander the streets of Leadville on the days leading up to the race. And I always ask folks who are standing around me when I'm at the starting line. And we've noted before how few people we talk to get in simply by entering the lottery and getting their name pulled out of Ken Glober's hat. I don't think they actually do the lottery that way, but it's a good image.
Be a big hat. And to compound that, with a lot of people who have already deferred their 2020 COVID year entries to 2022, means even fewer lottery entries are going to succeed this time around.
And then compound that with the people who got in due to the 2020 registration accident that led everyone who entered in 2020 defer into 2021 or 2022. Honestly, Hottie, I just don't think there can be very many lottery slots that are open for this upcoming year.
We were assured by Kimo Seymour and by Tamara Genlink, the new race director, that there will be a lottery for the 2022 race. But again, we're speculating here. We're going to go with the idea that there's just going to be very few entries to that thing. But there is hope. There is hope.
Yeah.
If doing the race in 2023 matters, here are options you can consider.
Yeah, for 2023 or for 2022, for that matter. You can still, of course, do the lottery. Many of you who are listening deferred into 2022, and so you are safe. So let's concentrate on some of the other ways you can get in. Volunteering. There's some key things that you can know about volunteering to get into Leadville. The most important one, which I did not realize until earlier this year, is you can't just volunteer into any Leadville race series, like one of the qualifiers for it to count to get into the Leadville race. You have to volunteer at one of the races that is actually in Leadville to get volunteer preference points for your race entry. So the Silver Rush or one of the running races. There are many events in Leadville, but you got to make the trip to get there. And, they do that on purpose because that's a place where there frankly just aren't that many people, and they need volunteers to come in and help for those very big races that require a lot of infrastructure for the number of people that are there.
Yeah, it just helps out the local economy too. Bring more volunteers in. That means they'll stay there. And again, it's part of the whole process. Part of the whole reason why the Leadville Race Series was created is to help Leadville itself, and bringing volunteers in is one way we can do that. How about a qualifier or a qualifier? Now, qualifiers I've done, qualifier lottery, I'm less... I don't know as well, but the qualifier is a way to get in, and there's still qualifiers, obviously. I mean, spring in the lead up to 2022, and then they've spread out the qualifiers a little bit. The schedule works a little different now than when I first became involved in the Leadville Race Series, but Tahoe is still a race that's happening and a great way to get in if you live out west, obviously. The Lutsen 99er, we've heard great things about when we were walking around town, Fatty. We ran into several people, a number of people who got in through the Lutsen 99er, and they love the event. Wilmington Whiteface is up in the air. That is a soft spot with the LRS and with what's going on. Chemo said he's going to get on top of that issue, whatever's going on up there, and try to figure out what's going on with the Wilmington Whiteface. Now, the Austin Rattler is now a fall event, and of course, we have the event in Arizona too. Those are all fall events, so you kind of got to wait till almost a year from now before those start coming around. But again, if you're eyeballing 2023, then those are qualifying events too that you can try and get involved in and find your way into the Leadville 100 that way.
There are a couple of others as well. There's the Silver Rush that you can use to get into the 2022 race, even though it's just a month away from the 2022 race. And then there is the stage race, the Leadville 100 stage race can also get you in. And my note was confusing on this one, Hottie. I said qualifier lottery. I should have said qualifier raffles. After every qualifier race, there is a raffle that random people, if you just stick around for the award ceremony, of course, the winners in each category, and sometimes it rolls down a little bit further, can get tokens for, they come in the form of a cool looking coin that will get you into the race. You got to have your checkbook in hand and sign up right there. But there is also a raffle where they will give out some predetermined number of entries into the race just for people who are showing up and are sticking around. So those can be pretty good ways to get in. Of course, it is a luck of the draw kind of thing, right? But it is a way to get in, where your chances are better, I would say, than they are in the traditional, just Leadville registration lottery.
Yeah, because the qualifiers themselves are quite competitive. In fact, I know I got at least one coin just because, there was a lottery at the qualifier, and they moved down far enough in my category that there was a coin for M. Hottie, and off to Leadville I was. So yeah, don't give up just because you didn't perform well at a qualifier. You don't think you can win a qualifier, what have you. There's other ways at those qualifiers to get in.
I will say that for men, getting a coin, getting an entry into the Leadville 100 through a qualifier, a fast finish time, that is incredibly competitive. For women, it is not as bad. Lisa and Melissa have both talked about before that there are few enough women, and there is enough of a roll down where a lot of the women who are racing and are getting on the podium already have entry into Leadville, that if you're a woman who wants to get into the Leadville 100, doing a qualifier is a pretty good way to get in. So just no stats on that, just something that I have observed at many qualifiers.
There's coaching packages available too that'll get you into the race. I think CTS, Carmichael Training System, has got one of these set up. Neither Fatty nor I have used that. We ran into some listeners this year that went this route that used the coaching packages. It's going to overall your out of pocket expense is obviously going to jump a bunch by doing this. Now you get something out of it. You get coaching. You get Leadville specific coaching, and you get your ticket to Leadville. You get your entry into Leadville. Obviously, you still have to pay for the entry, but you get into Leadville, I should say, which is a biggie. I mean, and it's a guarantee. You're going to get in. There's no stress about having to get in, which qualifiers has a little stress there. Like if you don't get into the lottery, then you're thinking about qualifiers. There's some stress there. Like, what do I make plans for? Am I going to get through the qualifier? Coaching packages kind of erase all of that and say, yep, sign up for the coaching package, pay some extra bucks, but you're in Leadville.
Yeah. So if you have decided already, yeah, I want to pay someone for coaching and, I'm willing to pay for that. I want to get into Leadville. Combining those two things into something where it means that you will for certain get into Leadville, maybe not at all a bad way to go. You can also get into the Leadville 100 by signing up for their Camp of Champions. Now, that is expensive too. It is, I think it's like $2,500 or something like that for the camp plus entry into the Leadville 100. There's great value in doing that, I would say, because if you are doing the race and it is going to be your first time ever, for sure by doing the camp that you will have spent a week at altitude, and there is value in knowing how your body behaves at altitude, and you will have over the course of that week gone over every inch of the Leadville 100 course. And that has a lot of value just because it helps you visualize what the day is going to be like. And also there are frankly some really good, smart people who are acting as guides and coaches during that. Ray Landry, I know he's done that before. Tamara, who is now the RD for the race, she has been a coach at that. And so you're going to get some people who really know deeply and love this race there. So I've never actually done it. Blake, my son, has done that race, or has done the camp one time to get into the race. Turns out that he loved it enough that he came back and did it again another year. So it's the camps, from what I hear, are pretty awesome.
Again, you get something. It's expensive. You do get something out of it. I mean, they give you, a full rundown on Leadville. You get to go out and ride the course, but and you get an entry a guaranteed entry into the Leadville 100, which is terrific. Another good way. Charities. If you want to ride for a charity, can ride for a charity, this is a possible way into Leadville. Now, you have to write the LRS and tell them, here's the charity I want to ride for. Here are the people I have. You have to pitch this idea to Leadville, and it's up to them whether they're going to go, okay, we want you in and we want you here because you're going to ride for a charity. So charity and riding for charity is a terrific way to get into the Leadville 100.
And there are some charities that have a specific number of slots for the Leadville 100, like First Descents. They have a certain number of slots. Livestrong has a certain number of slots. And of course, the Leadville, the charities affiliated with the Leadville 100 have a certain number of slots. The Leadville Foundation has a certain number of slots. So you can get in with them, sign up with them, and then providing that you raise, I think, a minimum of $2,500 for their charity, you get that entry, that guaranteed entry into Leadville. So if you happen to be wealthy and want to do something good with your money, this is, you can just write that check for yourself and you were into Leadville, right? And for some people, that is going to be worth it. And it's not like you're just writing a check to nothing. It is for a cause that is really good. I'm a big fan of First Descents. I've done a lot of fundraising for Livestrong in the past. It's a great way to get to do something you love to do while doing some good in the world.
And finally here, the Ground Up Season 2. Now, we did a little work with Ground Up Season 1. We had their organizers on.
Ryan and Alexa, yeah.
Right. And then we had Enzo, one of the participants, on. But what are you thinking here, Fatty? Ground Up Season 2, that seemed like a real long shot.
That is a long shot. They on their website, and this is all I know, they have put up saying something that they're going to start accepting submissions for the Ground Up Season 2 starting, I think, in December. So I assume that they're going to do what they did last year, and 3 people who have not who are new to riding will get entries into Leadville, as well as the bike and the trainer and training and all of those things. Honestly, out of the hundreds, if not thousands of people who enter into this contest, this is for sure a long shot. But if it's something that you want to try, worth knowing that it is that they're going to do this again.
Truth is, though, there is an entry cap on the LT100, so some folks are just not going to get in for this 2022 race. So this now is our bonus tip. Think beyond this year.
Yeah. We mentioned, from the ground up thing a minute ago, and I think that is actually relevant here. None of the three folks in season 1 got past the 40-mile mark in the race. And that underscores, in my mind, a couple of things. First, this race is hard. Second, it takes time to become an endurance cyclist. My main criticism of that project was, they should have given Enzo and Roberta and Shauna entry into the 2022 race and 18 months to get ready for it, instead of entry into the 2021 race and half a year to get ready for it. I think, honestly, we would have seen one or more of those racers complete the race if they had some endurance races under their belts and miles in their legs.
Yeah, it's a good point that rushing into this thing is sometimes not the greatest of plans. Like, maybe think about, you know what? Maybe the better idea is to really focus ahead to 2023. Make a plan B for if you don't get to, or you really don't want to race 2022. And bear in mind that experience in our other endurance events will benefit you in the 2023 race whenever you do get in. So again, maybe look ahead down the road even more so. Like, don't rush this thing if you don't have to. Don't be an Enzo, Roberta, or Shauna if you don't have to. Like, maybe give yourself a little time and get a little experience, about doing longer events or a Leadville type event. And there's a lot of ways you can do that without going to Leadville. Leadville's going to be there. I mean, that race is not going away. It's going to stick around there. It's going to be there if you want to be there in 2023 or 24 and beyond. So what do you do? What do you do in 2022 then if you decide, or if you can't get in, or you decide, this is coming up a little fast on me? Obviously, we talked about this already, Fatty. You can check out the Leadville experience by, going to one of its qualifiers, whether they be in Leadville or one of the satellite qualifiers, and kind of get a flavor and a feel for how this works. I actually went back to Tahoe with no intention of going to Leadville because I love that event so much. It was fun, and Tahoe itself is a lot like Leadville. It's at elevation. The dirt's somewhat similar. Yeah, it's not as long. It's not as big. It's probably not as fast, but you get the feel for getting ready for that type of event, how you want your bikes to be set up, your feeds, all that stuff still happens for you at a Leadville qualifier.
Any experience you have racing is going to be valuable for when you eventually do get into the Leadville 100, no matter what year it is. And doing an endurance race like one of the Leadville qualifiers, or any of the very, very, very many endurance races that are available across America, are going to make you so you have a better day when you eventually do this race. So, don't focus so myopically on 2022 and getting into the race that you don't have a great season no matter what, and get better so that whenever you do get into the race, that you're really available for it. Make your plan B in a way your plan A. So let's talk about some of the things beyond the qualifiers, for the series that I personally really love. The number one that I would recommend, if you can make the time and you want to spend time, because you need a week for this, but the Breck Epic, which is close to Leadville, way more single track. You're going to spend a ton of time at altitude. You're going to spend a ton of time on the bike. You're going to learn a lot about mountain biking, and you're going to have the best week of racing of your life. I guarantee it. I've done it twice, and honestly, the more fun than you can possibly imagine. Mike McCormick and his crew put on an incredible race, and you can get in. There's no lottery for doing this. You just sign up. Now, like I say, it is, I think, is it 6 days? Yeah, 6 days of racing. And so you got to be able to take some serious PTO in order to do this thing. But if you do, you are going to have such an amazing week of racing, and your endurance resume is going to be loaded to bursting by the time you finish this thing.
The Firecracker 50, I have no experience up there.
I love that.
You love that race? Again, you're going to get the distance you want, the altitude, simulation is going to be close. The field's probably not as big, but again, you're getting into a routine here. You're experimenting with bike setup. You're getting your feed routine down. You're getting your on the bike food situation. You're flushing some of that stuff out. Firecracker, you done Firecracker 50 then?
Yeah, I did it last year. Lisa and I did it. We rode it together. Melissa won it. It was the first race of the season that started drawing some pro attention to her when she demolished the field from out of left field. It is a 50-mile race, all in Breckenridge, Colorado again, so all at 9,000 to 11,000 feet. A very intense 2 laps of a 25 miles, lots of single track, not a huge field, so you are not going to find yourself crowded and trying to jockey your way around. You're going to get a ton of experience at climbing, at descending, and at feeding at altitude for a really low price, and a race that is easy to get into. It's not like you have to win a lottery to get into that race, which is good. Valuable experience, different kind of riding than Leadville, but definitely worth it. Next one I want to talk about is the 12 Hours of Mesa Verde, and this is just obviously this is a list of races that I did last year and am doing again this year. So these are all Fatty approved races. I liked them enough that I am doing them 2 years in a row. 12 Hours of Mesa Verde is, you are doing a very short 1 hour lap. It is in Cortez, Colorado, and it is just fun mountain biking. It is not expensive. You will meet a lot of the guys from Leadville. I think I saw all of them there last year. I saw the Sandoval brothers. They were racing on a team. Heath Speckman that we had on the show, he was on it. Let's see, it is where I actually met and started talking with Tamara Genlink there. So, I mean, half of the season was there, and it's not like we planned to meet there. It's just that the folks that, where do the Leadville locals go to do their first race of the season? They go and do the 12 Hours of Mesa Verde. It is a lot of fun. It's going to give you, whether you do it as part of a team or whether you do it solo to give yourself some good endurance experience, it is an amazing, beautiful, fun race to do. I'm
going to make a pitch for the Belgian Waffle Ride events. Now, Michael Marks is the head of Belgian Waffle Ride. He started it in San Diego. A lot of folks have heard it. First of all, gravel events are becoming massive. And so by attending a gravel event, especially one of the bigger ones like a BWR event or SBT gravel or what have you, you're going to get a feel for, being in a big group, being surrounded by a lot of other cyclists, all the stuff that goes into that, check in and where do I park? And there's a lot of like logistical things that you want to be comfortable with before you even get to Leadville. And going to a BWR event will certainly get you acclimated to that. And look, I realize that BWR is largely gravel events, and you'll see a lot of drop bar bikes there, and you're thinking, well, Hottie, I want to ride my mountain bike. I'm a mountain biker. Okay, I get that. David Turner of Turner Bikes rode his mountain bike, his hardtail mountain bike, at BWR San Diego. And BWR San Diego is like 65% pavement. You can ride your mountain bike wherever the hell you want to. I mean, these gravel events are not going to kick you out. Michael Marks wants your money, whether you're on a drop bar bike or a flat bar bike. So BWR events are, they're hyped up. They've got that feeling, that energy around them. So, and now they're spread out around the country. Asheville, North Carolina's got a BWR event. There's one in Cedar City, Utah. There's one in Kansas now, and obviously the OG, the San Diego event. And Cedar City, Fatty, you and I both know that course from back in the day when it was a qualifier, Leadville qualifier. Yeah. You certainly can take a mountain bike there. In fact, it's practically a mountain bike course the way they have that thing set up.
Yeah.
So there's no problem with showing up on a mountain bike at a BWR event.
Yeah, I have been at both of the BWR Cedar City events to crew for Melissa. And I, of course, being able to spectate as we're there were some very fast people on mountain bikes on that course. I would say one more in addition to the BWR that you're talking about of a similar ilk is the Crusher in the Tusher. You and I have talked on this show before about how if there is a more perfect tune-up for the Leadville 100 than the Crusher and the Tusher, we're not sure what it is. Like the BWR races, it is a gravel race, but it just the amount of effort it takes, the amount of climbing that there is, the altitude that you top out at, all of them make it so that I think there is an almost direct line from how you do at Crusher and the Tusher to how you will do in Leadville. It was like basically add 3 hours, and it's you want something that is going to test how you do at altitude, how you do at feeding, how you do at working in a group on pavement, which is a big part of Leadville, as we've talked about. All of those things are there at the Crusher and the Tusher. And of course, it is a lifetime event.
Absolutely. Crusher and the Tusher, I've ridden both on a gravel bike and a mountain bike. I mean, that's the type of course that is. Both bikes worked fine. I would give the edge to the gravel bike. I thought that bike was a little faster for that event, but you'll see plenty of mountain bikes there, and they do just fine. And you're going to get, all the feeling you want out of, again, being at a good size event. How am I responding? How do I climb? That thing has some brutally long climbs to it that will certainly say, oh, okay, I can do this. I can probably get up Columbine too. That Calder Crush is no joke, folks. That is something else, getting up that thing. Let's see. What have I got? I'm going to give a little shout out to my friend Sam Ames up in Bakersfield. This is a smaller event, but a good event. An event that will teach you about being on the bike for over 6 hours. So approaching that Leadville area. It's an event I've loved for a long time. It's called Rock Cobbler. It comes around in February. So it's like an early season event, but and Bakersfield I know is not on everyone's short list of places to go. It's more of a Californians event. I'm actually surprised this event has not grown more, and that may be Sam. Sam may want to keep this thing to a low roar. It's a great early season event, though, to kind of figure out where you are. And again, another one of these events that, is it a drop bar bike event? Yeah, it's technically a gravel event or a cyclocross bike event, but plenty of folks show up there on mountain bikes and race it that way. The weather can be anything. You might run into mud. It could be dry. It just depends on what California's up to with its drought, but a little known event, but it's called Rock Cobbler, and it comes up in February. And Sam is a terrific guy, puts on a really great event.
Right. And of course, there are literally hundreds of other races that Hottie and I have not even mentioned that are going to do you a lot of good. It almost doesn't matter whether it is on a road bike, a gravel bike, or a mountain bike, or something in between. If you spend some time in a race environment, especially something where you are putting in some long hours on a race day, the experience of being at a starting line, of being stressed out the day before a race, and then of fueling consistently and well throughout the day, those are all going to serve you so well when you line up at 6th and Harrison.
Which is where we all hope to be again one day, and we will be. All right. Geez, I think that's a wrap on season 4.
Oh,
Fatty.
That's sad.
Oh, I know. And normally right here, we thank our guest, which was you and me. So we're not going to do that. This time it's our listeners we want to thank. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being here, for supporting the show and our sponsors, and for being part of the Leadville family.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing if you think about it. When Hottie and I started this podcast, we were thinking 1 season and done. And 1 season went, and we figured we'd be out of material, but it turns out, nope. There have been 3 seasons more since then. And now we are making plans for season 5. We have you to thank for that. Without you, there would not be the 100+ episodes that we have now recorded. And we would not have the supporters that we have, and we would have no reason to come back. So thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for telling your friends about us.
While we are away, we hope you will explore our considerable library of Leadville 100 shows. You can find them on Apple Podcasts, of course, but there are a ton of other platforms where this show pops up. To see all the ways you can find the show, it's a new and easy to remember domain. It's leadville.fm. Fatty and I will continue our social media presence. He is on Twitter at FatCyclist, and I am on Instagram at Michael Hottie.
Yep. And there is always the Facebook participants page. I check it every day. And then there is our Slack channel. If you want to have more of a conversation with folks, that is, I always have that open as well. You can, I just made this today, Hottie. I don't think you have even seen this, but you can join the Slack channel by going to leadville.fm/Slack.
All right, everyone. Good luck in your planning, riding, racing, and recovery. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the 2022 starting line.
This is our Green Corral rolling out. Green Riders looking good, looking strong. Wishing you best of luck out there. Go get them. We'll see you back at that finish line in less than 12 hours.